During my near-death experience, I was shown something that shattered everything I thought I knew. Jesus revealed to me why so many terrifying visions of hell are misleading and what the truth really is. This testimony may change the way you see eternity forever. My name is Sarah Daniels. I am 49 years old, a mother of two, and I grew up in a quiet Midwestern town where church on Sundays was as ordinary as the sunrise. On the evening of June 12th, 2023, my heart stopped for 7 minutes in the ICU of St. Luke's Hospital. 7 minutes might sound brief, but what I saw in that space outside of time has reshaped my entire understanding of life, death, and eternity. Before I tell you what Jesus showed me, I need to admit something. I was obsessed with stories of hell. I don't mean in a dark, rebellious way. I spent years watching testimonies, reading accounts, and listening to sermons where people described fire, demons, endless torture. I wanted to know the truth, but what I mostly carried inside was fear. I feared that at any moment, one wrong thought, one careless word, might doom me forever. And here is the first loop I want to leave you with. When I crossed over, Jesus told me something that shocked me so deeply I could barely comprehend it. He said, "Most of the visions of hell you have seen or heard are not from me." I didn't understand. How could that be? Weren't these people sincere? Weren't their stories meant to warn us? I carried this question like a weight as his words echoed in me. And then he showed me what he meant. But I want to jump ahead. I want to take you with me step by step because it matters not only what he revealed, but also how he led me there. From the outside, I was a faithful believer. I sang in the choir, volunteered at Sunday school, and tried to live by the rules. But inside, I was anxious, burdened, and secretly suspicious that God was always disappointed with me whenever I watched videos of people describing hell to flames. The screams, the horrors I would feel. I prayed longer, fasted more, and tried harder, but the fear never left. My children would sometimes find me late at night, kneeling in the living room, whispering desperate prayers that God would forgive me for things I couldn't even name. I thought fear was holy. I thought terror meant reverence. But deep down, I was exhausted. What I didn't realize was that I was living in a trap. I had built my entire faith on secondhand visions rather than on the presence of the one I claimed to follow. That was the silent mistake growing inside me, the seed of fear that Jesus would later expose. Looking back, I can see the warning signs. My prayers were filled with panic, not love. My conversations about God were filled with threats, not hope. And when I spoke to unbelievers, I didn't offer good news, I offered nightmares. Still, I justified it. Better they be scared into heaven than drift into hell. I would tell myself, I thought I was helping. I thought I was saving lives. But late at night, when everything was quiet, another thought crept in. What if these visions aren't real? What if I'm clinging to shadows instead of truth? I never said it out loud, because to doubt the testimonies everyone else shared felt like betraying my faith. But that unspoken question remained until the night I died. On June 12th, my body betrayed me. Years of hidden hypertension caught up all at once. I had been visiting my father in the hospital. He was recovering from a minor surgery. I suddenly felt a crushing weight in my chest. The room spun, alarms rang. And I remember the nurse shouting, "Code Blue." The last words I heard in this world were my daughter's frightened voice calling, "Mom." As they wheeled me toward the ICU and then silence, but it wasn't empty silence. It was a silence alive with presence. I became aware of myself, more real than I had ever been. My body was no longer weak or heavy. It felt like I had stepped out of a shadow and into the substance. The room around me dissolved like mist, and in its place was a vast expanse filled with living light. That light wasn't blinding, it was welcoming. Every particle of it seemed to know me, to call me by name. And then I heard the voice, clear, strong, filled with both compassion and authority. Sarah, it was Jesus. There was no doubt. His presence was unmistakable, majestic yet intimate, overwhelming yet tender. And the very first thing he told me was the sentence that shattered everything. Most visions of hell are fake. I froze. Inside me rose a storm of questions. How could that be? Weren't people sincere when they described what they saw? Why would so many share the same image as fire chain screams if it wasn't true? Jesus looked at me, and though he didn't answer immediately, his gaze itself was the answer. There was more he wanted to show me, and I would only understand if I followed him deeper. That was when I realized this was not just a vision for me. This was a correction, not only for my heart, but for countless others trapped in the same fear I had lived under for decades. But what exactly did he mean? How could so many testimonies be misleading? And what was the real truth he wanted me to see? Those questions would soon be answered. But in that first moment, all I had was his words echoing like thunder and light. Most visions of hell are fake. And so began the journey that would take me from the edge of fear into the heart of truth. I didn't know yet that he would reveal to me the difference between illusions born of fear and revelations born of his spirit. I didn't know that he would show me the danger of listening to every voice without discernment. All I knew was that I had crossed a threshold and nothing would ever be the same, that the silence around me was alive, not empty. I could still faintly hear the echo of machines and voices from the hospital, but they were fading like a dream. What became real was the light brighter than the sun, yet gentle enough to rest in without fear. It pulsed with life, every wave, carrying warmth and knowing. For a moment, I thought I was still in my body. Then I realized my body was far behind, lying on a hospital bed, surrounded by frantic doctors. I saw their hands pressing on my chest, a nurse reading the numbers aloud, a clock on the wall marking 8:47 p.m., and yet I was standing, conscious, untouched by the panic that filled the room. I drifted higher, as if drawn by an invisible current. The ceiling of the ICU didn't resist me. It dissolved, and as I passed through, all fear dissolved as well. Then his presence filled me again. Jesus. I didn't need proof. It was impossible not to know. His voice wasn't sound in the ordinary sense. It was truth that resonated inside me. Double quotes, Sarah, he said once more. The way he spoke, my name, made me feel more alive than 49 years of breathing ever had. And then, with eyes that seemed to see through all illusions, he told me again, most visions of hell are fake. The words hit me harder now, as if each syllable peeled back a veil I hadn't known I was wearing. I thought of the countless testimonies I had watched, the sermons built on fear, the nights I had trembled imagining flames and demons. Were they all lies? Or was there something more subtle happening? Questions collided inside me, but Jesus didn't rush. He allowed me to feel the weight of those words before leading me further. I became aware of movement. The light around us shifted, opening like a curtain. Suddenly, I was standing in what looked like a vast expanse, stretching farther than any horizon on Earth. It wasn't empty space, it was alive with detail, every particle shimmering like music in visible form. Felt his hand on my shoulder, not heavy, but steady, anchoring me. I will show you, he said. What he showed first was not fire, not torment, not screaming multitudes. It was a mirror, a vast mirror hanging in the space before me, reflecting something deeper than surface appearances. I looked into it and saw myself kneeling on my living room floor, whispering desperate prayers. Behind me were shelves stacked with books about hell, videos paused on faces describing torment. My reflection trembled with fear. Then his voice filled me again. This is what fear creates. The mirror rippled, the image of me dissolved, replaced by grotesque scenes, fires that twisted into shapes of terror. Shadows clawing at the edges, faces screaming endlessly. They looked just like the testimonies I had believed. For a moment, I recoiled, convinced I was seeing hell itself. But Jesus whispered, illusions. With that word, the images shattered like glass, breaking apart into dust that faded into nothing. I realized then, fear had power to create pictures, but not truth. I wanted to ask why so many people, sincere and broken, had visions like these. I wanted to protest that some of them seemed so real. But before I could, he turned my gaze back to the hospital. I saw my body lying motionless, the monitor flatlining, the medical team shouting instructions. Charge to 200, someone said. A doctor leaned close, pressing down again, sweat dripping from his forehead. To them, I was gone. And yet, here I was, more alive than ever. Jesus spoke again, his words weaving calm into the storm inside me. You must understand the difference between fear and revelation. Many who claim to see are trapped in fear. They mistake their own terror for my truth. And others. His eyes pierced me, others use fear to control. My heart trembled. I had been both. I had been the frightened believer who mistook fear for holiness, and I had been the voice who used fear to warn others, thinking I was serving him. The realization cut me deeply. Tears flowed, though in that realm they weren't wet, they were light breaking free from within me. Jesus didn't condemn me. He placed his hand under my chin, lifting my face to meet his eyes. I did not come to enslave you with terror. I came to free you with truth. I thought of my children. How many times had I passed down fear to them without realizing it? How many nights had my daughter heard me plead with God as if he were always angry? The thought tore through me like fire. And then Jesus said something that stopped my breath. You are about to repeat the same chains to the next generation, but I am breaking them now. Behind him, I saw the light swell like an ocean rising. Waves of living brilliance moved as if waiting to reveal something greater. I knew he was about to show me the true reality behind all the false visions, the truth that had been hidden under layers of fear. I wanted to step forward to see, but just as I moved, the hospital voices reached a peak. Clear, a nurse cried. My body on the bed jolted violently as electricity surged through it. I saw the spark leap like a thread between two worlds. For a split second, I felt pulled in both directions, back toward the heavy shell of flesh, forward toward the living sea of truth. And then he said, you will see what is real, but only if you trust me more than your fear. The light opened wider, a passageway forming. I knew if I followed him through, I would discover why he had told me that most visions of hell were fake and what the true danger really was. Took the first step forward. I followed him into the passage of light. It wasn't like walking down a hallway, it was more like being carried by meaning itself. Drawn forward not by steps but by truth unfolding. Every movement deeper into that expanse peeled away another layer of fear I hadn't even realized I still carried. Then the visions began. Not illusions, not dreams, but revelations crafted with precision. Jesus, let me see them. Not to frighten me, but to separate truth from counterfeit. First, he showed me a great field stretching endlessly. In the distance were countless figures, huddled and trembling. They cried out words that formed chains around them, chains made not of iron, but of syllables. Every cruel remark, every judgmental whisper, every lie they had spoken took the shape of links that bound their hands and feet. I gasped because I recognized the sound of some of those words. They were mine. The gossip I had passed along, the careless remarks I thought harmless, the warnings I had spoken with more fear than faith. Each word had weight. Each word left a mark. Jesus' voice was gentle but firm. Hell is not fire invented by imagination. It is separation built by words, choices, and desires that resist my love. As he spoke, the scene shifted. I saw buildings, magnificent churches, cathedrals with soaring spires, dazzling lights, and massive crowds. For a moment, they looked glorious. But then, as though a wind passed through them, many began to crumble like sand. Their outer shells collapsed, revealing hollow centers. I looked at him, terrified. "What does this mean?" He answered, "Not every vision is from me. Many reflect the fears of men, their own guilt projected outward. Others reflect institutions that claim my name but lack my spirit. Fear can conjure images as powerful as any dream, but truth is tested by fruit. Some of the churches, however, did not fall. They glowed brighter, their walls turning translucent, revealing hearts within ordinary people, praying, repenting, and loving the forgotten. These structures did not collapse. They stood firm, glowing like embers fed by an unseen wind." Jesus turned to me again. "Most visions of hell are fake because they are shaped by fear, pride, or deception. But the true danger is this: people believe them more than they believe me." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that these visions had helped people, that they had made many take faith seriously. But his eyes silenced me. He let me feel the difference between fear that enslaves and truth that liberates. Fear drove me to despair. Truth drew me to him. And then he showed me something I will never forget. A river stretched before us, flowing with fire. But this fire wasn't torment, it was clarity. Every lie, every illusion, every false testimony fell into it and dissolved instantly. I saw faces of men and women I had once admired, their grand visions unraveling like mist as they touched the river. The flames did not consume them. They consumed only the falsehood. I trembled. "Why show me this?" I whispered. His reply was direct. "Because you believed the lie that fear was holy. I am truth. And truth does not need terror to be believed." The word struck me like lightning. How many years had I spent spreading warnings born of fear? How many times had I thought I was serving him when all I was doing was passing along my own dread? And then he said something that pierced me even deeper. "You were about to teach your children to inherit fear as their faith. That is not my will." My knees buckled. I fell before him, overwhelmed. But instead of condemnation, his presence wrapped me like a cloak of warmth. He lifted me up, his hand steady. "Sarah, I am sending you back, not to argue about visions, but to warn, test every spirit. Do not let fear define your faith, and above all gird your words." As he spoke, the mirror appeared again, but this time it didn't show me trembling in fear. It showed my children, standing years from now, speaking life, encouragement, and truth. The chains that had once formed from my words were gone, replaced by streams of light flowing from their mouths. Tears ran down my face. "Is this possible?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "Because I break chains? And because I am sending you back with this message. Most visions of hell are fake. Do not live by fear. Live by me." Behind him, I heard what sounded like a trumpet, faint but steady, calling me back toward my body. The hospital scene returned into focus. The frantic team, the machines, my daughter's face pressed against the glass of the ICU window. Jesus' final words echoed as everything began to pull me downward. "Guard your heart, guard your words, and tell them the truth." The pull back toward my body was strong, but before I fully returned, Jesus showed me one last series of visions. They were not meant to frighten me. They were meant to anchor the truth, so I would never forget. The first vision was of a courtroom, not a human one, but a place where every thought, every word, every motive stood exposed. I saw people presenting their visions of hell as if they were evidenced them with sincerity, others with pride. Each testimony was weighed, not by the terror it carried, but by whether it carried his presence. Many crumbled when touched by his gaze, dissolving like smoke. A few remained, glowing with a steady flame. Then he looked at me and said, "Do you see now? Fear cannot be the foundation of truth. My spirit cannot be faked. What is born of fear will return to fear. What is born of me will endure." The scene shifted again. I stood on the edge of a great chasm. For a moment, I thought it was the hell I had always imagined vast, consuming, endless, but when I looked closer, I saw that the pit was not filled with fire. It was filled with echoes. The echoes of people who had lived and died, repeating lies, speaking curses, condemning others. Their own words had built the walls that surrounded them. I realized then why Jesus had told me to guard my words. It wasn't a suggestion, it was survival. Every careless phrase, every slander, every rumor was a stone laid in the construction of a prison. Some people spend their entire lives building their own hell, one word at a time. My chest tightened. I thought of my own life, the countless moments I had spoken without love, the warnings laced with fear, the way I had passed on secondhand visions as if they were gospel, and I understood I had been adding stones to my own prison without even knowing it. Jesus stepped closer. His voice was filled with compassion, but it cut sharper than any blade. This is why most visions are false. They reveal not my kingdom, but the prisons built by human fear. Do not confuse the echo of fear with the voice of truth. I felt undone. Yet, in the same moment, I felt hope. Because even as he showed me the chasm, I saw bridges of repentance, bridges of words spoken in love, bridges of truth that led out of the pit. The prison was real, but it was not final. His mercy was stronger, Then he gave me a commission. When you return, you must tell them this. Test the visions. Test the voices. Test even your own fears. Do not swallow everything that glitters with the name of eternity. My sheep know my voice, and my voice does not enslave with terror. It frees with truth. I nodded, though tears streamed down my face. But Lord, I asked, how will they believe me? So many crave the sensational. They want fire, thunder, and fear. He answered with a phrase that burned into me like fire on stone. Speak what I give you, not what they demand. If you speak truth, those who are mine will recognize it. As he said this, I became aware again of the hospital. A doctor leaned over my body, shaking his head. "We're losing her," he muttered. Another nurse glanced at the clock. It was 8:54 now. 7 minutes had passed. My daughter sobbed outside the room, pressing her small hands against the glass. I wanted to rush back, but Jesus held me one moment longer. "Remember this, Sarah? The enemy of truth is not only lies, but fear disguised as revelation. Most visions of hell are fake. Tell them why. Tell them to guard their hearts and to guard their words." Then he touched my forehead. It was not a violent push, but a gentle breath. Suddenly the current reversed, and I was pulled downward, through layers of light, into the heavy weight of my body. The shock was brutal. My chest convulsed, air forced itself back into my lungs, and the sound of machines roared into my ears. I gasped violently, eyes flying open. The medical team stumbled, back in shock. "She's back," someone shouted. The doctor who had declared me gone only seconds earlier now stared at the monitor, disbelief written across his face. My pulse was steady. My breathing returned. By all logic, I should not have survived 7 minutes without oxygen. But there I was, alive, trembling, with his words echoing in my soul. And I knew my life would never, could never be the same. When I opened my eyes, the hospital lights were blinding. My chest ached from the compressions, my throat burned from the tube they had inserted, and my body felt like a fragile shell barely holding together. But inside, I was more alive than I had ever been. The medical team bustled around me, their voices a mixture of relief and confusion. One nurse whispered, 7 minutes. She shouldn't be talking. The doctor kept shaking his head, muttering, I don't understand this. But I understood. It wasn't science that had pulled me back, it was mercy. The first face I saw clearly was my daughter's, her small hands pressed against the ICU glass, her eyes wide with tears. When she realized I was looking at her, her lips formed the word, Mom. That single sight pierced me deeper than any sermon ever had. I had almost left her with the legacy of fear, but now I had the chance to give her truth instead. In the weeks that followed, recovery was slow. My body carried the scars of that night, but my soul carried something far greater, the commission he had given me. I began to notice how people responded differently when I spoke. Some leaned in, hungry for every word. Others recoiled, uncomfortable, even offended. It was as if his warning sifted people the way light separates shadows. When I told close friends that Jesus had said, most visions of hell are fake, some gasped in disbelief. A few even accused me of deception. Are you saying all those testimonies we've believed for years are lies? They demanded. I could only answer with humility. I am saying what he showed me. Test it for yourselves. Don't let fear guide you. Let his spirit confirm what is true. Others, however, broke down in tears. One woman confessed that she had lived paralyzed by nightmares after watching endless videos of fire and torment. She said, if what you say is true, then maybe God isn't angry with me all the time. Maybe I can breathe again. I placed my hand on hers and told her, that's exactly what he wants you to know. His truth frees. Fear enslaves. Not everyone accepted it. Some still clung to the dramatic images, craving the sensational more than the steady flame of truth. But I learned that my mission wasn't to convince everyone. My mission was to speak faithfully what I had been given. At night, when I prayed with my children, I changed my words. No longer did I plead with God as though he were a judge waiting to strike. Instead, I thanked him for life, for mercy, for love stronger than fear. My children noticed. My daughter once whispered, Mom, you sound happy when you pray now. That small comment confirmed everything. The chains were broken. And so, if you are hearing my story today, I want you to remember the heart of it. Jesus told me that most visions of hell are fake, not because hell is unreal, but because fear has twisted countless imaginations into prisons. The true danger is not what fear shows you, it's what fear makes you believe. Guard your heart. Guard your words. Do not build prisons with your tongue. Test every vision, every voice, every claim. His spirit brings peace even in warning, freedom even in correction. If what you hear only enslaves you in terror, then it is not from him. I was sent back to share this message with you. Do not confuse fear for holiness. Do not mistake terror for truth. Follow him, and his light will expose the illusions. And now I leave you with the same commission he gave me. Speak life, speak love, speak truth, because every word carries weight not only for you, but for generations to come. If this testimony spoke to you, comment guard followed by your country so I know where you're watching from. Subscribe for more stories like this and share this video with 3 people who need to be set free from fear.